Howdy folks, Jambareeqi here. I first saw Rick and Morty when I did a review of the first ever episode for my DVD, Rainbow Lollipop, but since then I didn't really go back to the show, but my brother Joe has been bugging me to watch it for so long. And as it's my brother's birthday today, I decided to give him the gift of reviewing the first season of Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty follows the adventures of eccentric scientist Rick Sanchez and his neurotic grandson Morty. Each episode has Rick dragging Morty into the middle of a crazy science experiment or a mission to a strange otherworldly dimension. But sometimes Morty's parents and sister are victims of Rick's ridiculous antics too. The great thing about Rick and Morty is that it's never boring or predictable. As Rick's scientific mind is so wild, every episode opens up a wormhole into infinite storytelling potential. Rick's oddball gadgets may seem like clever, useful tools, but using them always escalates our characters' normal lives into chaotic predicaments. Even when Rick uses an invention to solve a situation, there's always a chance that he'll just end up making things worse. The fact that there's consequences for using any of Rick's gadgets means that each episode is rich with organic storytelling. When an episode starts, we think we know how it'll pan out, but then BAM! A curveball is thrown in and we go in a completely different, exciting direction. However, each episode isn't just a series of random nonsense. Acts have been carefully planned out. When Morty is dragged off on an adventure with Rick, Rick has a firm idea about what he's after or trying to achieve, and the writers keep that motive consistent throughout the story. Sure, the audience has to slowly work out said motive, but watching his intentions being gradually revealed is what makes each adventure so fun. Rick also carries a portal gun, meaning that he can take himself and Morty to other dimensions. The series can send us to any kind of wacky dimension at all, and there's a chance we'll end up seeing the same dimension again, but with a reverse twist. Because Rick and Morty travel to so many different dimensions, the show's universe is beyond expansive. I mean, the series lets these worlds cross paths to create a layered connectivity and a believably developed universe for the show. Rick and Morty also uses its high-scale imagination to engineer its unique style of black sci-fi comedy. In a cruel way, the series will always find the twisted humor in the bizarre situations our characters get stuck in. The show can go to some really dark and weird places, but always tries to show the hilarious side of our characters' dilemmas.
Where are my testicles, Summer? Where are my testicles, Summer? They were removed. Where have they gone?
Season 1 presents us with a wide range of crazy scenarios. Morty's dog becomes sentient and tries to overthrow mankind, Morty gets stuck inside a theme park located inside a human body, Rick and Morty are trapped in an alien simulation of Earth, Morty impregnates a sex robot and becomes a teenage father, the list goes on. It's a very varied selection of far-out ideas that show the fantastical vision that the writers have. There's even an episode where it's just characters watching alternate reality cable television. Which could sound boring on paper, but very funny ad-lib dialogue and off-the-wall TV show ideas make it superbly entertaining in execution. At first, this season introduces the show's premise as a monster or gadget of the week kind of series, each story being episodic and standalone in nature. However, mistakes from characters' poor decisions remain consistent, and we're often reminded of the consequences resulted from past inventions. Like I said too, dimensions and worlds are linked, meaning that a bigger picture is being drawn as the season goes on. This is most evident in one particular episode, where we discover that Rick's intellect is so sought after that he's being cloned to a point where there's a whole community of Ricks and Mortys. It's these kinds of details that indicate that there's more to the show than silly comedic adventures. Rick has traveled enough dimensions to leave behind countless footprints on the show's universe, meaning that we're yet to learn more about Rick's history. What I love about Rick himself is that he embraces every strange encounter with a content, nonchalant attitude. While Morty panics and freaks out at these otherworldly dangerous sights, Rick casually plows along and cracks dumb jokes.
Cover me!
Oh man, I mean, you know, I don't want to shoot nobody.
They're just robots, Morty! It's okay to shoot them, they're robots!
My leg is Shut up!
Glenn's bleeding to death! Someone call his wife and children!
They're not robots, Rick!
It's a figure of speech, Morty. They're bureaucrats. I don't respect them. Just keep shooting, Morty. You have no idea what prison is like here.
I think this speaks volumes for his character, implying that he's explored so many weird dimensions that nothing seems to take him by surprise anymore. Rick is also remarkably intelligent. I'll admit that sometimes I underestimated his intellect, because I was distracted by his askew morals and eccentric personality. But behind his quirky charisma and corrupt values lies a very educated scientist with a passion for exploring the potential of science. It's this high level of IQ that makes him kind of a badass, because he uses his noggin to be one step ahead of his alien threats. I have to admire his cool confidence and calm zen-like approach to life. Yes, Rick can be very salty and cruel towards those around him, but there's a tongue-in-cheek black sense of humor to his jabs at his family.
Hey, do we have any wafer cookies? Ooh, boy. Looks like you guys have been checking out alternate lives and realizing you don't have it as good, huh? That's too bad. You know, me and Morty are having a blast. We just discovered a show called Ball Fondlers. I mean, I don't want to rub it in or anything, but you guys clearly backed the wrong conceptual horse.
It's funny seeing how he'll word his sassy insults, using his intellect and wide vocabulary to mock his less clever relatives. Interestingly, as the season goes on, we can start to tell that Rick's mean-spirited nature is clearly a shield for some deep-seated emotions.
Morty, do you know what wubba-lubba-dub-dub means?
That's just Rick's stupid nonsense catchphrase.
It's not nonsense at all. In my people's tongue, it means, I am in great pain. Please help me.
Well, I got news for you. He's saying it ironically.
No, Morty. Your grandfather is indeed in very deep pain. That is why he must numb himself.
Perhaps he's been hurt in the past, or maybe he witnessed something during his dimension hopping that traumatized him. I do hope that a future episode will explore the more sensitive side of Rick, because it's always interesting seeing the vulnerable side of spiteful characters. Then we have Morty, an easily nervous and neurotic teenage boy. Morty's skittish irritability brilliantly contrasts against Rick's laid-back sensibility. It's hilarious watching Morty freak out at the awful situations Rick has dragged him into, while Rick acts like it's just another normal day.
If you get killed in someone else's dream, you die for real, Morty.
What? Are you kidding me? Oh!
Don't be a baby. You avoid getting shot in real life all the time, Morty. Just do the same thing here and we'll be fine.
Their opposing responses to batshit crazy scenarios is the driving force of the show's comedy. At the end of the day though, Morty is still just a teenage boy, and the show doesn't shy away from his pubescent development. Just like any lad his age, he's very interested in girls and will let his sexual lust dictate his decisions, which will often have bad consequences. But he doesn't always have sex on the brain. He's still a rational thinking boy with a strong set of morals. Morty is quite easily the most relatable, down-to-earth and sensible character on the show. This helps him to serve as a surrogate for the audience, giving them someone to latch onto during these wild sci-fi stories. He also has some very profound advice to give to other characters, showing that he's a remarkably sensitive and thoughtful boy.
We all have bad impulses, bad thoughts. We just have to learn to channel them into something constructive.
But I want to murder everyone I see.
When I watched the first episode of this season, I was expecting Morty to be just the punching bag for Rick's misadventures, and the show wouldn't take the grandson-grandfather relationship any further than that. Boy, was I wrong. Morty does prove that he's not as spineless as we initially think, and he will frequently confront Rick about their relationship as family. Morty does get increasingly frustrated with his grandfather's selfishness and cold attitude, to the point where he'll crack and criticize the old man for his behavior.
Is it time for arcs yet, Rick? I did a pretty good job back there for a human cloaking device. Saved your ass.
All right, Morty, don't break an arm jerking yourself off.
Man, I can't believe you, Rick. That right there, that was a great opportunity to show a little humanity, you know? To connect with me a little.
Hey, Morty, you want connection? Go be part of some stupid club like all those dumb Ricks. You know, maybe I don't connect because I'm the rickest Rick there is.
The thing is too, Rick does clearly care about Morty. Even though he'll rarely openly show it, there are times where he'll express compassion for his grandson, but in very subtle or discreet ways that only the audience will notice. When Morty is physically assaulted by a psychotic king in a bathroom, he's too traumatized to say anything to Rick. But Rick is wise enough to see what's happened, and he does make the king pay for what he did. It's little scenes like this that show a hidden, empathetic side to Rick. Let's not forget that there's other members of the family too, including Morty's parents, Jerry and Beth, whose marriage is obviously failing. The whole season explores the tension between Jerry and Beth, often tackling the topic of troubled marriage with mature nuance. We do see them lashing out at each other even when the kids are present. However, it's not all just arguing and bickering between them. Remember that episode where characters are just watching TV? Well, some channels on this alternate reality cable television show a world where Jerry didn't marry Beth and became a big movie star instead. In a surprisingly moving scene for what's mainly a silly comedy cartoon, this alternate reality proves that Jerry would still have yearned for Beth in his life by the end. It's a remarkably sophisticated way of exploring a married couple's feelings, and an example of the writer's ability to utilize the show's sci-fi universe to tell stories. Morty also has a sister called Summer, who, for the most part, acts like any other teenage girl you'd see in a family sitcom. She's interested in boys, clothes, and being popular, the usual traits of the trope. However, one particular episode opens up a new realm for a character. In said episode, Summer ends up working for the devil, who is giving away cursed items for free. Despite knowing the immoral nature of her boss's practice, Summer is simply happy to have a job and a potential grandfather figure, while Rick spends the episode obsessing over taking down the devil with science. It's an episode that makes us question the relationship between Summer and Rick, while also fleshing out her character into someone more human.
Summer, you know your grandfather's right. This store curses people. That's my business.
Well, yeah, fast food gives people diabetes and clothing stores have sweatshops. Is there a company hiring teenagers that isn't evil? This is my first job. You've been nice to me, Mr. Needful.
I do hope that future episodes explore the bond between Rick and his granddaughter. There's a lot of potential character development there. Season 1 does a lot of that. It finds subtle ways to gingerly implement possibilities for future episodes. Now and again, exposition is drip-fed to the audience, rather than spelt out in one whole episode. A great animated series doesn't directly open up a can of worms in its first season, but instead shakes the tin and hints that something interesting is contained inside. This is something that Rick and Morty's first season demonstrates frequently, and it's what's making me eager to see what's maybe ahead. To conclude, I really enjoyed the first season of Rick and Morty. It's darkly hilarious, wildly imaginative, and surprisingly thought-provoking at times too. I look forward to watching season 2 of Rick and Morty and hope that it presents some fresh, exciting material. I've been Jambareeqi and I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, then please consider supporting me on my Patreon. Also, head over to my official website jambareeqi.com to read written reviews of films I've not covered on this channel. Cheerio, folks.